Govan Mbeki was a South African politician and activist. He was a leader of the African National Congress, ANC, and the South African Communist Party, SACP. Mbeki fought for the freedom of all black people in South Africa. Mbeki studied at the University of Fort Hare. He obtained a degree in political science and psychology. In 1935 he joined the ANC. Mbeki worked as a teacher in the 1930s. However, he was soon dismissed for his political activities. From 1938 to 1944 he worked as a magazine editor. In the 1950s Mbeki began to play an important role in the ANC. He also joined the SACP. Both groups were struggling to end the apartheid system, which gave whites more rights than people of color. Mbeki became an editor of New Age, an anti-apartheid newspaper, in 1954. Mbeki became a chairman of the ANC in 1956. He built strong ties between the ANC, the SACP, and the trade union movement. Mbeki also was one of the founders of Umkhonto we Size We, Spear of the Nation, in 1961. This group was the military wing of the ANC. In 1963 the police arrested Mbeki, Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, and other anti-apartheid activists. They were charged with trying to overthrow the government. At the trial, called the Rivonia trial, the men were found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. While in prison, Mbeki wrote a book called South Africa, The Peasants Revolt. It was published outside the country in 1964. Mbeki was released from prison in 1987. In 1994 he became a member of South Africa's first fully democratic parliament. 5 years later his son Thabo Mbeki was inaugurated as President of South Africa. Govan Mbeki died on August 30, 2001, in Port Elizabeth. He was described variously as a scholar, disciplined cadre, builder, teacher, and selfless and devoted leader. He received his early education through mission schools, and went on to pursue a Bachelor of Arts degree at the then University College of Fort Hare. He completed his degree in politics and psychology together with a teaching diploma in 1936. It was during his time at university that he met other African struggle leaders. His teaching career was short-lived, due to his political activities amongst the students and the local community, as well as the role he played in organizing workers and trade unions. In 1954, he joined the editorial board of the New Age newspaper, the only national publication serving the liberation movement. This newspaper, along with its editors and writers, was eventually banned by the then Minister of Justice, John Vorster. He built and sustained a tradition of excellent political journalism and theoretical writing. His book, The Peasants Revolt, which he wrote and smuggled out of prison while awaiting trial, was a major historical study of peasant struggles in Pondoland and Sekhukhuneland. As a leader of the African National Congress, ANC, and the South African Communist Party, in 1964 he was sentenced to life imprisonment on Robben Island, along with his co-defendants Nelson Mandela, Raymond Maitlaba, Walter Sisulu, and other ANC leaders, following the Rivonia trial for terrorism and treason. During his prison sentence, on June 26, 1980, the Secretary-General of the ANC, Alfred Enzo, announced the conferring of the time-honored title of Isithwelandwe on Govan Mbeki. He was released from custody on November 5, 1987. He went on to become Deputy President of South Africa's post-apartheid Senate from 1994 until 1997 and the National Council of Provinces, its successor, from 1997 to 1999. Govan Mbeki received an honorary doctorate from the former University of Port Elizabeth in 2001, in recognition of his distinguished service during the struggle, his leadership role in organizations such as the ANC, and the power of his writings. He passed away in September of the same year in Port Elizabeth. Govan Archibald Mvuyelwa Mbeki, July 9, 1910 to August 30, 2001, was a South African politician, military commander, communist leader who served as the secretary of Umkhonto we Size We, at its inception in 1961. He was also the son of Chief Selfless Mbeki and Johanna Mahala, and also the father of the former South African President Thabo Mbeki and political economist Moletsi Mbeki. He was a leader of the South African Communist Party and the African National Congress. After the Rivonia trial, he was imprisoned, 1963 to 1987, on charges of terrorism and treason, together with Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, Raymond Maitlaba, Ahmed Kathrada and other eminent ANC leaders, for their role in the ANC's armed wing, Umkhonto we Sizwe, MK. He was sometimes mentioned by his nickname Gov. Govan Mbeki was born in the Nkamakwi district of the Transkei region and was a part of the Xhosa ethnic group. As a teenager, Mbeki worked as a newsboy and messenger in the cities, and because of this, he saw the poverty urban black Africans lived in, and the constant police raids they endured. He attended Fort Hare University, completing in 1936 a Bachelor of Arts degree in politics and psychology and a teaching diploma. Mbeki met other African struggle leaders while attending the university. For a time Mbeki worked as a teacher, but lost his job because of his political activities. He was a member of the South African Communist Party, SACP, then the Communist Party of South Africa, or CPSA, from the late 1930s, and joined the African National Congress in 1935. He then set up a cooperative store in Ideological and began a writing career. From 1938 to 1944 he was the editor of Territorial magazine /Inkandla Yabantu. Mbeki left journalism in 1944 and became a government-nominated member of the Transkei Territorial Authorities General Council until 1950. His role in the CPSA/SACP was clandestine at the time, which helps explain why he received the nomination. Mbeki disparagingly referred to the council as a toy telephone. You can say what you like, but your words have no effect because the wires are not connected to an exchange. In 1948 Mbeki stood as a candidate for the Natives Representative Council but lost the election. When the CPSA/SACP was banned in 1950 by the apartheid government, Mbeki remained in the African National Congress, ANC. In 1952 Mbeki was imprisoned together with Raymond Maitlaba and Mvuyelwa Mbeki for 3 months in Rui Hell, Red Hell or North End Prison, Port Elizabeth, for disobeying apartheid laws by participating in the Campaign of Defiance Against Injustice Laws, Defiance Campaign. In 1954, a tornado destroyed his store, and Mbeki was dismissed from teaching again. He would lose his job 3 times, and be blacklisted from others, from the 1930s onwards. Mbeki moved to Port Elizabeth and joined the editorial board of New Age, a prominent leftist newspaper linked to underground CPSA/SACP networks. Mbeki played a crucial role in ensuring that the pages and columns reflected the conditions, demands, and aspirations of black working-class people, particularly in the countryside. He also worked on The Guardian, New Age, Fighting Talk, and Liberation, and worked with Jock Harold Strachan in the Port Elizabeth area, and helped him produce the newsletter Izwi Lomze, Voice of the People. Mbeki was meanwhile actively involved in the major campaigns of the day, including the revival of the African National Congress in the 1940s, the Defiance Campaign and the Congress of the People. In 1960, the ANC was banned, and along with the underground SACP, formed Umkhonto we Sizwe, MK, which became ANC's armed wing. Mbeki was involved, and, at his urging, Strachan assisted MK by turning his hand to improvised explosive devices based on substances like potassium permanganate, magnesium, glycerol, and icing sugar. This was our job, devices and explosives. So I said, for God's sake, why me? And they said, no, well, you were a bomber pilot in the war, you see, so you must know how to make bombs. I said, but for Christ's sake, Govan Mbeki, we didn't make our own bombs. And they said, but you know about those things, and I said, no, bombs were made in bloody factories, I don't know. So he said, anyway, you're appointed. "We did a good job, actually." Strachan, quoted by Zoe Mulder. Meanwhile, in November 1962, the then Minister of Justice, John Vorster, banned New Age. When the editorial board came out with its successor publication Spark, Vorster went one step further by banning not the newspaper but its editors and writers. This effectively ended Mbeki's role as editor and journalist in the country. On July 11, 1963, he was arrested with other MK high commanders. In 1964, he was an accused in the Rivonia trial and sentenced to Robben Island. In 1939, Mbeki published his first book, Transkei in the Making. A supporter of the 1950-1961 Pondoland Peasant Revolt, he wrote the pioneering study of the movement, South Africa, the Peasants Revolt from 1958, which was published in 1964. Much of the book is an analysis of the political economy of the Transkei, rather than the revolt itself. Following the Rivonia trial, Mbeki served a long term on Robben Island, during which he managed to run education classes with prisoners, many on Marxist theory, and wrote a number of significant analyses jail, which were kept on the island and used for discussions. The surviving copies have since been published. In 1992, he published The Struggle for Liberation in South Africa, A Short History, and in 1996, Sunset at Midday, Lachinilanjimani. Mbeki was released from custody after serving 24 years in the Robben Island prison on November 5, 1987. He served in South Africa's post-apartheid Senate from 1994 to 1997 as Deputy President of the Senate, and then the Senate's successor, the National Council of Provinces, from 1997 to 1999. Mbeki died in Port Elizabeth on August 30, 2001. He was given state funeral during his son's presidency, Thabo, on September 8, 2001. His remains were the subject of controversy in 2006 when plans were made to exhume them, and place them in a museum. These plans were called off after Mbeki's family refused the request. Mbeki received an honorary doctorate in the social sciences from the University of Amsterdam in 1978. His son Molitsi attended the ceremony, as Mbeki was imprisoned at Robben Island. On June 26, 1980, the Secretary-General of the then illegal African National Congress, Alfred Enzo, announced the conferring of the Izatwalandwe Medal, the ANC's highest honor, on Mbeki. Mbeki was, however, not present to receive the award, because he was serving a life imprisonment sentence on Robben Island. Mbeki received international recognition for his political achievements, including the renaming, at Mandela's suggestion, of the recently opened health building at Glasgow Caledonian University. The Govan Mbeki Health Building was inaugurated in 2001 at a ceremony featuring his son Thabo. The Govan Mbeki local municipality in Mpumalanga is named in his honor. Order for Meritorious Service in Gold, 2003. In 2004 he was voted 97th in the SABC3's Great South Africans. In 2013 a large section of road between Swartklip and Baden-Powell Road, running between the neighborhoods of Browns Farm, Gugulethu, Nyanga, and Crossroads in Cape Town was renamed Govan Mbeki Road. Govan Mbeki, Umgov, joined the South African Communist Party, SACP, in the 1950s and remained a communist and a firm believer in the superior morality of socialism to his last day. He threw himself into the work of linking the struggle for socialism in our country with the struggle for the national liberation of black people by cementing strong relations between the SACP, the African National Congress, and the trade union movement. He was one of the leading pioneers in the founding of the People's Army Umkhonto Sizwe. Together with Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, Ahmed Kathrada, Elias Mosorladai, Raymond Maitlaba, Andrew Mlangeni, Wilton Kwei, and Dennis Goldberg, he was sentenced to life imprisonment in the Rivonia trial by the apartheid regime in 1964. Upon his release in 1987, he was immediately part of the people's struggles to defeat the apartheid regime by contributing to the rebuilding of legal structures of the ANC and the SACP. In all his work, He distinguished himself as a scholar, a disciplined cadre, a builder, and a teacher. Few political activists in our movement have paid such attention to the indigenous application of the science and theory of Marxism to South African realities and conditions. He built and sustained a tradition of excellent political journalism and theoretical writing. His book, The Peasants Revolt, was a major historical study of peasant struggles in Pondoland and Sekhukhuneland. He came out of Robben Island having published several books and having written many articles used for lectures internationally. Indeed, he was one of the great Marxist writers of the previous century. Thank you for watching this video.